Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of 2 on the trip from Voss to Sundland workshop. I just filled up with coffee and now we're heading our way to Sundland. And we're still running a non-passenger service with a train set of class 75H, also known as FLIRT. And it needs to go to the workshop to have some wheel corrections on the wheel due to some flat spots. And I also want to thank Captain Blackbeard and Øyvind Paulsrud and Jusen for joining in on the memberships. Thank you. Good evening to you too, Stephen and Big Al and Naomi. Thank you so much for the super chat, John. You see, there are no ventilation in our tunnels from the top. The reason for this is that it would be very comprehensive to build an air shaft into the tunnels. But they're actually built in a way that you kind of get a cold draft through the tunnel. So like the Finse tunnel, you actually have a draft that goes from Finse and down to the other side. And that is just the pressure difference flowing through naturally. But you're actually not supposed to be in a tunnel. And in modern tunnels here in Norway, during a case of evacuation and stuff like that, they actually used to start fans which is mounted in the roof to direct their airflow from one side to the other. Thank you so much for the super chat, CJ. This trip will take approximately 3 or 2:45 or something to get to Drammen. Hey there, Mr. Ux GT. Yes, yeah, we actually do sell hot chocolate on the train. It's dispensed from a vending machine, but seriously, that hot chocolate, it is so good because of the foam on top. Thank you so much for the super chat, Steve. Yeah, it was approximately -6 degrees. Hey there, Papa. Yes, I think it's actually 20 NOK or something per cup. Then this was recorded in December. One luck, we sadly do have to get our own. Dealer 101. No, sadly, we're not traveling at 200 kilometers per hour on this trip. That's because the high speed limit on the Bergen line is actually 160 kilometers per hour. If we would like to go in 200, that would be on other lines. Yes, that would be awesome, and you would be so welcome. Thank you so much for the super chat, Kevin. I bet you do, Naomi. I bet this is actually your favorite look on those trees. Steve, yeah, I would actually do the sleeper cars when I have the chance to do them, but usually I don't drive that part of the stretch with the sleepers. Yes, no. There are no passengers on this train. We're still doing the rolling stock transfer from Voss to Sundland workshop because this train needs some wheel correction. So I'm still running behind train 6-2 that is actually running on the block in front of me. So yeah. Stephen Dartnell. Do I have an American accent? And Fanman, the minimum distance I have to keep from a train in front of me is not decided by me. It's actually decided by the signaling system and safety systems of the railroad. And the thing here is, I have gotten a lot of questions now lately after I told that I was running on the block behind the train in front of me. And it isn't in a way that we count distance or time, but it's more like the position of the train in front of us. So, example, if when I came into Ål, I had to wait there until the train in front of me actually reached Torpo station, which we will be coming into shortly. And when that train arrives Torpo, it will clear the line block behind of it. And when the line block is cleared, the traffic controller is then able to give me signal clearance to proceed to the next station. So I just make sure that my speed and timing is in a way that I will always be riding the green wave, so I wouldn't have to stop in front of every single main signal to wait for the train in front of me to pass on to the next signal block. Did that make any sense? Joe Newman? No, actually not. Being out here by myself is, I would say, it is very calm. It's you get a lot of time to your own thoughts and stuff like that, and yeah, I just love it. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jess. Rog, the reason I did that is very simple. This is larger, this is faster, and you are actually more independent out here. Driving trams was very local, and you weren't allowed to kind of fiddle with the machinery if something went wrong. As a tram driver, you were just supposed to drive it and not have kind of more extensive knowledge of how things were actually working. That is a really stark contrast from actually being a train driver slash engineer. Because out here, there's like hours before you can get help, and you have to kind of try to sort out things yourself to get into the next station or clear the line so other trains can pass. So you don't want to be an obstruction for other traffic. So yeah, the knowledge needed to drive trains is vastly higher than like tram or subway. Mr. XGT, hitting wildlife is kind of part of the job. Just have to prepare for it. It's gonna happen. It's just a question of when it's gonna happen. So I have a lot of wildlife on my conscience. And some of them has been pretty grim, actually. But yeah, it's part of the job. Killer 101, the minimum age here in Norway is 20 years old. Ford. Usually Streambot is on the other stream. Why Streambot has suddenly switched over to this stream as well it's just beyond me. I don't have control over Streambot. It's its own entity on a server with Streamlabs. So yeah, welcome Streamlabs bot. David, there's been a variety of problems I have actually solved out there. I have been helping out colleagues who has broken down, and the most intense repair we ever did was in the local service when I was based in Oslo. The local service between Oslo Central Station and Ski, which is a suburb outside of Oslo, on a very heavy trafficked line. So we were actually blocking the line, even though it was dual track. So we just wanted to get that train away, and we had electrical short circuit on the battery circuit, so everything just lit up, and he wasn't able to get the air into the system or get the train to move. And when I connected with his train, all those errors came onto my train set as well, and you were standing there and thinking, how are we actually going to solve this? So we had to split the trains manually again, and in the end, I used my jacket, put it between the electric coupling, smashed on, and then we just pulled him away to the workshop. Valerie, the temperature definitively affects the rail. During huge swings in the temperatures, the rail will actually be very slippery. And this is because when metal contracts or the rail contracts, it actually squeezes out some oil. And that oil will be on the top of the rail, and that is really slippery. So the time where we actually see most of this is during fall and spring. Lars Gunnar, no, we do not have rifles on our trains anymore. Some lines actually do, but then you have to take out some parts for the gun yourself, and you need to be a licensed hunter to be allowed to do that. Yes, I'm not sure which version of Windows I had in 2009, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Windows 7? Could that be right? Dealer 101, look for triangles pointing up or down with a number on it. In Warner, if we drive train 6-2, especially during the winter when there's a really low sun, believe me, we can be blinded. I was actually sitting for almost 3 hours with the sun straight into my face, and it was actually really horrible. Latin? I mean, seriously, the schematics for the L18, it is beauty, it is art. And yes, I'm a nerd. Summerland? I would really like to answer that question, but I think I would actually get in trouble for talking about it, so yeah, I think you understand. Okay, then it was actually Windows Vista, sadly. I just remember that operating system to be complete bollocks. That guy, that actually depends on what kind of resolution you're going to be working with and how much effects and editing you are thinking about doing, and if you're going to be working with the maximum resolution files. Sidekick? Yeah, I have actually been watching several other channels. Clifton, I actually needed to slow down to make sure that the line in front of me was actually clear. I'm not sure if you noticed it, but when I was on the way into the station, you saw 2 greens and 1 blinking yellow. And that blinking yellow tells me that the main exit signal from that station was set to red. So that means that the block ahead of me wasn't clear yet. So when the train in front of me came into the next station, then voila! The signals went up into green and I had clearance to proceed, and so I did. That guy, if you're gonna work with Adobe Premiere, I would actually recommend at least 32 gigabytes of memory, and I would advise you to have 3 disks. 1 disk for system files and the application files, 1 disk for project files, and 1 disk for Scratch files. And the system drive and the Scratch disk and project disk, I really recommend those to be SSDs, and then I mean like really fast SSDs. That is when you will actually benefit a lot of the work and export and import in Adobe Premiere. Thank you so much for the super chat there, Presser. Kevin, I will actually take a look at it later. Hey there, T-Daggy. Hey there, Linda. Hey there, Mark from Vancouver. That guy, SSDs are solid state drives. They are actually faster than normal hard drives. Healer 101, the distance from the warning sign about reduced speed and until the point where you need to have the speed listed, that is different from place to place and how depends on how big of the difference is. The depressor, when it comes to climate change, we are seeing it. We are seeing stark differences in our weather pattern and in very many other ways as well. We have a lot more rain and we have a lot more landslides. And another thing that we've noticed is that the level in the mountains where trees don't grow anymore, it has actually risen. So trees now actually grows higher up in the mountain than they actually used to before. So before it was approximately 1,000 meters and that was the tree line. Above that you would just see shrubs. But now it is approximately 1,162 meters. So that's actually 162 meters higher up. They actually see trees now. Marvin, yeah, I can elaborate on that quite fast. 2 greens means line speed and signal clearance to proceed. And then you have 1 green, which means that you have to proceed with reduced speed, typically when you are going into a diverted track. That is basically the combination you get on main signals. Every main signal has a connected distance signal because we need to see what the aspect of the main signal is or what we can expect in it. So approximately 800 meters or 1200 meters in front of each main signal, there is a distance signal. And the aspects you can see there is either blinking yellow, which means that connected main signal is in red and you should prepare to stop. If it's blinking green, that means that you have 2 greens in the main signal and you can continue at full speed. If you see blinking green and yellow at the same time, it means you have to proceed with caution, because you can expect that the main signal will show you proceed with reduced speed. Thank you so much for the super chat, Christine. Nothing more than that I actually love cows, and the Hindus holds the cow sacred, and there's actually nothing more peaceful than a Hindu cow. So yeah, I actually celebrate the Hindus for holding the cow sacred. Thank you so much for the super chat, Hanfanman. Howie, I have thankfully never experienced a derailment, and I hope that I will go through the whole career without experiencing one, because that ain't fun. Like, seriously, it ain't fun derailing. Linda, time it takes from one end to the other. What? Could you please elaborate on that one? Bulkmaster, on the mountain pass like Finsa, the people who works there during the winter are the people who maintain the hotel and rail workers, as well as some people who are working on the larger cabins there. But besides that, there isn't very many people up there. So mostly tourists and people who actually loves the outdoors during the winter. During the summer, there's actually a huge hotel there, and that keeps a lot of people. So yeah, that is basically Finse. Denise, I have been driving trains for over 10 years. Linda, it actually depends on what kind of train you're running. Some trains are actually faster than others, like the Morning Express and the Evening Express, but it takes approximately 6.5 hours. Yeah, dealer, I'm a real dream crusher. Okay, I would actually rather starve. So actually vote option 3. Thanatos? Oh, that is a good question. Which one of them I would prefer? They're actually very different, but the 73 is really cool to drive. And L18 is, I think it's more versatile. And I'll actually like the workspace on the L18 a lot more, even though the 73 is really awesome. You have a bigger window on the L18, so yeah, I would definitely go for the L18. Okay, when it comes to point of view, the Dutch train guy, that is actually never going to happen here. We're not allowed to show you guys how we actually operate the train for obvious safety reasons, so yeah, really sorry about that. Lifton? I find it actually exciting driving in conditions like that. And I'm actually not afraid for the track not being there, even though we don't see it. And the reason for that is if we have a fault in the tracks, they won't be able to give us signal clearance. So then we would have to get permission to proceed with reduced speed, and then we would definitely see it, and the damage wouldn't be that great if there actually was something wrong with the track. Dealer, can you please elaborate? Kevin, no, I would actually not be allowed to work between those two trips. Sidekick, I would actually try. I would love to try the TGV Thalys. That would be awesome. David Hood, I have never ever tasted that. I will never ever be in the vicinity of that. So if anyone tells you or challenge you, do not do it. Seriously, do not do it. No, I have not seen any snow slides. Howie, if I need to use the bathroom, then I have to use the bathroom. But usually when we get to work, we just make sure that we to the bathroom for a while. So yeah, that's kind of part of the preparations. Circuits, the high speed we have here in Norway is 210 kilometers per hour, but we do have several lines that is dimensioned for 250 kilometers. So the day we actually have trains that can travel at those speeds, they will just bump up the maximum speed limits on those lines. But that is still like way into the future, and if it's ever going to happen under the current regime they have imposed on the railway, I'm not sure about that. Naomi, yeah, that would be awesome if we had a co-driver like we had before. We actually used to have that until year, I think it was 2000. And after 2000 they removed the assistant. Basically because they wanted to cut cost. Sundland, if I had a chance, I do it. Jay Johnson, maybe, or yeah, like maybe not, because if I wanted to do that, I would have to render 2 different videos. You are welcome, Circuit. Circuits, FATC is actually full protection, so yeah, that would be surveilling absolutely everything when you go to reduce speed or when you are approaching signal with restrictions and stuff like that and maximum speed. The other ATC we have, which we have on this line, will just surveil you on when you're approaching diverted tracks, temporarily speed restrictions. That was a tongue twister. And if you have, and of course when you are approaching signals that is in red, but it will not surveil you on maximum speeds or speed reductions in general. Here in Norway right now, they have projected that we'll switch from ATC and optical signals and to the system called ETCS or ERTMS, which is a European rail management system. So we will have the same signaling system like every other country, of course. Problem is that I think it's just 3 countries that has started to use it, like Norway is one of them. And they say that every line will be equipped with that system by 2032. And according to plans, the Bergen line will switch to ERTMS in December 2023. After that, all optical signals will be gone and we will get all the information we need directly into the cab. Healer 101, if nothing else is listed, the standard speed for diverted path is 40 kilometers per hour. Dr. Alex, yes, we have a system that we need to tell that we're still awake and lucid. And if we fail to do that, the train will actually stop. Naomi, yeah, we're actually waiting for an oncoming train. And in this case, right here, right now, I actually went to the bathroom. Captain Blackbeard? Yeah, kind of. It is actually, you can see that it's a rolling red signal and that you keep your foot on the pedal to hold it as green. And if fail to hold your foot there and the train will just stop. Yeah, CJ, you're quite right about that. And how did that work out? Secrets, you have to hold your foot on the pedal at all times, and if you don't hold your foot on the pedal, it will actually take approximately 6 seconds before the train stops. When you hold your foot on the pedal, and as long as you are operating the controls and stuff like that, it will not ask you to lift your foot and put it back down, because switching the controls will actually be an indication that actually doing something. If you do not do that, it will take approximately, depending on speed, it's different from speed to speed, but in general the rule is like every 50 seconds you will have to lift your foot and push it back down again, or else the train will stop. Future of rail travel, I think it will become more popular, and I think it will become more evident that rail travel in general would have to be under federal control and not for private companies to profit from it, actually. And that is basically because we need one whole unified system that actually communicate with each other and work for like a bigger goal, and not to just gain profit from it, because rail traffic will have a huge impact on the future way of how we travel when it comes to requirements of clean travel, basically. So yeah, I think we will see a big surge on interest in rail traffic in the future. Bill Griffin, yeah, it will definitely give you a tone before the brakes are applied, and the tone is actually, that is kind of the limit, because when you hear that tone, it's like, yeah, now you actually have to do something before I stop the train. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. And in this case, I actually knew that the train in front of me was going to meet another train at Trolldalen, the station like up the hill here, which is directly translated to Troll Valley. And train 62 had to get to that station before the freight train could continue, so I was actually waiting for that freight train. Circuits, They are actually not planning on extending the railroad further north. It's been talks about it, and it's just a political scheme. It's not going to happen because of the cost of it. No one dares to do the same thing they actually did when they planned the Bergen line. Oh, the retirement benefits for us, it's what shall I say? It's diminishing, really. It's being carved off from year to year, and I'll guess by the time I get to retire, there's actually nothing left. Sundland, that is because of speed. And you also have to take into consideration the shape of the train. Costa, that's basically because when they opted for a system to work with, they actually chose the simplest and cheapest system to do. And that was the 15 kilovolt, and yeah, that was basically it. Sidekick, define high-speed rail network. Are you thinking of speeds that exceeds 250 kilometers per hour? That guy, yep, can say that. We are being privatized on a large scale here in Norway, so we've also seen that the benefits go down with that process. And yes, it is a scheme because retirement costs money. Naomi, the new line is that goes through the tunnel is like open all year. It doesn't get blocked. The line that went over the mountain, the Finse mountain, it could be blocked for days and weeks at a time during winter. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sakura. And Fanman, no, Flom is not the most northern line in Norway. The most northern line in Norway is the one that goes from Kiruna on the other side of the border and to Narvik. That is actually the northernmost line here in Norway. But if you are considering the rest of the network, that would be the north line that goes to Mo i Rana, which would be the northernmost point, before it kind of points slightly downwards to Bodø. Jay Johnson, yeah, they have actually been working relentlessly to increase the speeds in and around Oslo. They started on the intercity triangle that goes to Lillehammer and to Skien and to Halden. And they're still planning on extending to double track high speed between Ski and Halden. They are almost, I think the new tunnel is going to open next year or something, next year or the year after, which will reduce travel time between Ski and Oslo. And they are building a new bridge that goes out from Eidsvoll to a place called Langset. And that will cut some time. And yeah, I'm not sure when the whole project will be finished because they do it like bit by bit, and it totally depends on who and what kind of government we have. So yeah, it's like in a railroad perspective, 50 years is considered a short time, and I have seen a lot of things happen during my time here, and that's just like 10 years. But yeah, those things, if you look at it in a large perspective, they're just small bits. I just don't understand why they don't like, okay, we are going to have a high-speed line between Oslo and Lillehammer. Let's start. Let's plan it. Let's start it and finish it in one go instead of like doing bit by bit by bit. Because doing it bit by bit by bit, the price will just increase and get higher and higher and higher due to inflation and other fluctuations in the market. It's just, the whole thing is insane. It takes so long. So much time is just wasted in planning small parts, then plan the next small part and plan the next bit. Instead of like, we're gonna start here and end here, plan it, start it, finish it. Thank you so much for Super Chat, Jeff, and thanks to Robert Morgan for Super Chat as well. Robert, did you do Norway in a nutshell? Did you go to Flom? Ah, I see. Was it one of the ladies, the other girls that I work with? Robert, that is so cool. Okay, you are absolutely right. I was actually thinking about Fauske. Thank you so much, Morgan. I actually got a message from the driver you were talking with, who you was taking picture of, and that is quite cool. She actually told me that you guys had come here just because of this channel, and I am truly grateful for that. And I think it's just wonderful that I'm actually able to show off how beautiful this line is. That guy, this is kind of a joke, but I think that if they change the number on that highway, it will actually go through. Naomi, I am actually sadly not able to splice these two movies into one part, basically because of the restrictions that is on YouTube, which is either 10 hours or 128 gigabyte. If I splice these two movies, I will get close to almost 450 gigabyte. So that is definitely not going to happen. Circuits to the north, that will actually be way beyond what I do. And the reason for that is that we are split up into regions, and now we're actually basically split up into different companies. So the people based here on the west coast won't be allowed to drive in the north anymore, and those people in north won't be allowed to drive anywhere than on the north line. So that is basically our reality today. Rico Green, fee? What do you mean? Please elaborate. Okay, yeah, I would actually like to do that. allow me, I can assure you that that was not a FLIRT, that was a L14 and a freight train. Wolfpartinger, I am actually not sure if they are going to do that. They had a project going of electrifying the line from Trondheim to Steinkjer, but those plans have been postponed, actually. Lars, I think the max is 450 or 460 or something, but they are actually planning to extend some stations to make it possible to run longer freight trains. I know that Green Cargo now has actually put in the maximum length they can run to be able to pass other trains on stations. Hey, thank you for the cowbells, Lamaland. Tonka, that was actually a good one. Paolo, those sheds actually just contains a oven that you can burn firewood in and a couple of chairs and a table. Those small houses are used by linemen when they are out working. Circuit. The criteria to do the additional speed is that you need to have rolling stock that is approved for additional speed. Rico, the power is coming from the overhead wires. Dr. Alex, do the medical exam every 5 years, and then when you pass a certain age, it's every 3rd year, and after 50, you have to do it every single year. Girl, yeah, they actually have the infrastructure provider, those who actually maintain the track. Those are the people who keeps the track free of snow. So they will, if it's too much snow for ordinary traffic, they will actually use dedicated plow trains and snow blowers to track. Marvin, those are actually nothing more than a sign that tells you where the nearest exit is and the distance between each end of the tunnel. No, I don't need a medical examination each year yet. It's actually been a while since I've seen like mooses or deers near the line. I usually see them in the edge of the forest when eating, but I have not seen them being on the line for a very long time. But I actually, yeah, it's pretty often when I drive this part of the line that I see that my colleagues has actually encountered wildlife on their nightly trips. Thank you so much for the super chat, Vinza. Regrets? No, I have not had any accidents yet. Danrog? No, actually we don't have a lot of problems with ice falling on the track, because the guys who maintain the line, they are really good to monitor every place where ice actually develops, and on certain intervals, they actually go out and they just remove the ice. That guy, I am not quite sure about that, but if the tree starts to grow higher, actually that will also draw the animals to go higher as well, because they will actually follow the food. Thank you so much for the super chat, Freddy. And no, I am not afraid that I'm gonna be replaced by a computer, because I can tell you this, there is actually no computer or AI yet that will be able to run on this line and do the assessments that we actually have to do when we're driving. So if you think about the cost they would have to invest, or the amount of money they have to invest in sensors and stuff like that, and maintenance of all that equipment on the mountains, and to make sure that those systems are cleared of snow, I can tell you one thing, that they will actually not use that amount of money when they can have like cheap labor to drive the train. Captain Blackbeard, there is just one problem with automation, and that has been proven in case after case after case after case. On a line like this, where you run multiple kind of trains, there is no way you can actually have an automated system, because every train will act differently. They will have different speeds and stuff like that, and actually it would just not be possible to automate this line. Automation will actually work on closed networks where every rolling stock is the same. That will actually work, but on a multi-rolling stock system like this, it's definitely not gonna work. So I don't think I'm gonna see any automation besides the signaling system in my lifetime, but who knows? And Fatman, yeah, that I have done on several occasions. Benny, yeah, I know, and I think that is kind of a subway or metro system with just one kind of rolling stock, if I'm not mistaken. And they are actually also talking about automating the metro here in Norway, or to be more exact, in Oslo. FLIRTing, I have tried a train simulation. Actually, I did Microsoft Train Simulation like way back. But I actually downloaded Train SimWorld 2020 from Steam, and I have been testing that, and that is actually quite cool. So I actually did a stream where I played some trips in the US, and I have tested out the German system, and yeah, it's kind of fun to see how things works in different countries. Well, depends on how realistic that simulation actually is. Captain Blackbeard, but the Dockland rails are just one kind of rolling stock, isn't it? The speed right now is 130 kilometers per hour. Actually, it was 130 kilometers per hour, then we reduced to 95, and right now it's 110, and we're gonna reduce to 70 kilometers per hour for the next curve. Then it's gonna increase to 100 kilometers per hour, then be reduced to 85, and then it goes up to 115. And Fanman, what I like to do in my spare time, I am one of those sickos who repeatedly cannot do anything else than get into an airplane, get up onto altitude, and actually then leave the airplane. cars, that will actually be really awesome. But the problem is that the Bergen line only has 2 restaurant cars. After this we will reduce to 70, then it will increase to 85, then to 110, then it will go down to 80 kilometers per hour, and then 40 and when we enter Hønefoss. Lars Gunnar, did you exceed your speed limit? Hey there, Paul. Hey there, Kari. Oh, Jay Johnson, I have actually counted completely wrong. I was actually thinking about the types. Let's see, we have 1, 2... I think it's actually 3, or 4. 4, I think it's actually 4. Paul can actually elaborate on that. Paul, hvor mange bistrovogner er det vi har på Bergensbanen? Er det 4? Thank you so much for super chat, Ivan. Bob, I actually do have a lot of skydiving videos, but not on this channel, but I have uploaded something to this channel. So if you just hold on, I will paste in the link. One moment. You are welcome, Robert Morgan. Circuits, there has been a lot of people who has asked exactly that, but I think if I did a face reveal, only thing you would see would be a welding mask. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Roland. Naomi, do you mean Baumgartner? Yeah, I actually saw that Red Bull stunt when he actually jumped from that balloon. Yeah, it was something. It was actually something. Lars, good night. No, sorry, don't know him. See you later, Finsa. And now shortly we will be arriving Hønefoss, and here we will have to wait for train 601. So there will be a short break here at Hønefoss. And I'm actually gonna use that moment to get some more water. Be right back. Hey guys, I'm back. Wojciech, that actually means that we have to expect a different train path, or what shall I say? We have to expect that our train path into the station could be shorter than normal. That is basically what it is. Latin, the L18 is constructed in a way that the mirrors will automatically fold if you pass speed of 105 kilometers per hour. So, after you pass 105 kilometers per hour and you reduce your speed afterwards, the mirrors won't come out again until you reach the speed of 50 kilometers per hour. If you want to have the mirrors out, like personally I like, you have to push a button. So if you're under 105 kilometers per hour and you push the button, the mirrors will stay out. If you are over 105 kilometers per hour, if you're over 105 kilometers per hour, the mirrors will fold out and stay out for about 5 seconds before they fold back in. And this is basically because of aerodynamics and air resistance. Naomi Garza, yeah, there was actually a very huge change, being we actually came into another track and we did a whole different path from the entry and till the point where I actually stopped. David, that is actually in the works. Dr. Detroit, sadly I cannot. Basically because the distance between the back and front is basically too long. So I would actually, you're thinking about normal service, I actually don't have time to do that. Yeah, it is what it is. there on the mountain, there's actually a super secret military installation, and huge spaceships actually lands there. I'm just kidding. It is actually a restaurant, and it is Voss Resort, which is our ski resort. So the thing about the gondola is that you can take the gondola directly from the station and up and go straight into the ski slopes. So that was the intention. Instead of taking the bus to the ski resort, you just get straight on the top. You can actually kind of do that if you use the redeem ill horn or flirt horn. Then you'll actually be sounding the horn. Jeff, this run here is actually shorter than the other run. Can seem longer because I do a lot more waiting compared to when you run passenger train. When you're running like empty rolling stock train, you have the lowest priority on the line, so you just have to expect that. Yeah, it will take the time it takes to get to your destination. When we divert at Gullskogen station, which is the station before Drammen, where we end at Sundland, that will be actually, if you take it from Ål to Oslo, it will be approximately 40 minutes shorter than with the passenger service from Bergen to Oslo. So that's the difference. It's approximately 40 minutes shorter. Thank you, David. Right now we are going approximately 70 kilometers per hour. Spot center you did? That's awesome, thank you! Stewardess, those speed signs are universal for all trains. So no matter if you are a freight train or you are a passenger train, empty train, or work train, you actually have to abide the speed rules or limits. Yeah. So they are there for a reason, and that reason is that that is the technical speed of the line. Thank you for joining in on the channel membership, Lars Gunnar. JDVD, there are actually a lot of those converters on the line here between Oslo and Bergen. A golden rule is that a power supply can supply power for approximately 10 miles, like metric miles on each side of the point of contact. So yeah, so it would be a few. It would be on the Bergen line from to all. We actually have like two, I think it's 3 power supplies just between Bergen and all. That guy, it actually totally depends on a lot more than just if you're a guy. It depends on color of your eyes, the color of your hair, the tone of your skin and stuff like that, but I think you should choose your favorite color. Madame Voss? What? You think so? David, I think that it's not totally far from the truth. The sound on the horn on this one it's basically horrible. And Fanman, it's spendable on virtual stuff. Just for a quick conversion on the mile thing, 1 metric mile is, or 10, yeah, 1 metric mile is 6.25 imperial miles. So if we convert that again into what I told you earlier, that means that a power supply can feed 16 imperial miles on each side of the connection point. Sidekick? Yeah, I actually used to drive tilting train when I was based in Oslo. Christopher Hofer, this train is good for 200 kilometers per hour, but the restriction on this line is set to 160 kilometers per hour. Dark 6, the weight of this train is 218.3 metric tons. So it's not how much weight I'm actually pulling, because this train in its empty state, of course, will weigh 208.3 metric tons no matter what. So this is a whole unit, and it is 108.5 meters long physically, and it weighs 208 tons. Okay, that would actually be awesome. We're actually now passing through a station called Vikersund, and here a couple of days ago there was actually a really tragic accident on the level crossing in the farthest end of the station, where actually someone lost their life. There was actually a car caught between the gates, and instead of getting out of the car, the guy actually tried to save his car, and he was sadly struck by the train. So there has been some really huge news coverage on this, and they are still trying to figure out what actually happened. The thing is here in Norway that the gates are actually built to break, so if you get caught between the gates, if they are on the way down and you didn't see the signal going red or something, it states on the inside of the gate that they are made to break. So instead of trying to get out of the car and try to get off the rails and stuff like that, just floor it and drive through the gate. It's that simple. It will break. I will, Lars. Hidagi, we don't have open communication like with radio and stuff like that. We actually use GSMR, which is like a normal cell phone system, but we have some rail functions attached to it, so it is its own system. And so yeah, it's kind of a point-to-point system, but we can also do conference calls. So yeah, we are actually spared from listening to chatter, so it's really quiet in the cab, and I really love that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Robert. Barnacle, actually there's no progression between freight and passenger trains because the passenger train company is like one company and the freight company is another company, so there's actually no progression. So if I wanted to drive freight trains, I would have to quit my job in the company I work for now and start in a freight company. And Fanman, yeah, I've seen that myself, and that was actually how it was here in Norway, like ages ago, but we moved away from that system, so the conductor part and the part that where we were called assistants, that ceased to exist in 2000. And after that, it's been like you go through the progression or the academy, and when you come out, you go through the internal training in the company you're hired, and then you get certified. So yeah, you are instantly a driver after you have completed the training and passed all your exams. Seven? Yeah, they actually have. Kenneth, the extra track you see in the middle are typically placed on bridges and close where the track is close to a cliff and stuff like that. They are placed there to reduce the chance of the train like drifting out to either side during or if there's a derailment. So it actually makes it less likely that the train will just run off the bridge. That is basically it. You want to keep the train on the bridge. So those extra tracks are placed on bridges, and where it's usually like really steep, or yeah, there's a chance that you might or could derail for some insane reason. David? I don't know. I actually always wanted to be a driver. Dark 6, that's the beauty of adhesion. That guy? That is correct. That was actually a hydro plant. Carbons, it's not about hours, we're talking years. It actually, you have to go to the academy for 1 year, then you have to undergo the training in the company that hires you afterwards, and after that you are certified and you will be a driver. And you have the academy, that's 1 year, and then you have to be ready to spend approximately 3 to 6 months after the academy time before you are actually out there driving on your own. So approximately 1.5 years. Okay, Dutch. Bob Anderson? Yeah, the driver that was involved in the accident is okay. He is actually out there driving as usual. And yeah, when it comes to jumping out of planes, I'm not sure. I have trust issues. I don't trust the pilot. I'm just kidding. Rainer, to be honest, I'm actually not completely sure. I don't think they're sure themselves how many drivers they actually need. So I think they're still in the assessment process where they need to find out how many drivers they want to have based in Oslo, if they're going to have drivers in Oslo at all, and how many they're going to have in Bergen and at all and at Voss. It's all totally up there, and yeah, I don't think they really have sat down and really looked into it on how things are going to function on very effective and cost effective. Yes, I have definitely heard about the Bermuda Triangle. And Funman, that actually depends on what kind of bridge and the connection between the bridge and the solid ground. So sometimes you feel like a bump, and that is basically because of the difference of winter and summer. So how the ground and the ice in the ground, the water, the frozen water in the ground, how that affects the level of the track from the physical construction of the bridge. Ivan, no, the train cannot be remotely controlled. Dutch, yeah. If that doesn't open, I would actually just add the rotation basically. And the thing is that it is made to open. So if you have a double malfunction, that one is really. I think I would actually do absolutely everything to get it out, so yeah. I don't know, not without the proper paperwork and stuff like that in place. So if you want to ask to ride along, you have to contact the train company and they will have to issue an access card. Captain Blackbeard? Yeah, maybe, but we are not like the US. We are actually covered. And I have all the insurances I need to perform the skydiving. And yeah, so if something happens, I'm actually covered. And both with governmental insurance and everything, because we have, of course, single payer healthcare here. Dutch, that is actually kind of dark. It's the same thing we say when people ask, yeah, what do you do if the main doesn't work? And we go like, yeah, then you use the reserve. Yeah, what if that doesn't work? Well, then you have your rest of the life to figure it out. Christine, if you just hear the high-pitched tone, it's basically because the button for the horn doesn't send the signal so that both tones will sound. It is actually supposed to have a high tone and a low tone. Yeah, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And Fanman, well, tradition, yes and no. The colors on the housing here in Norway, it's kind of fascinating. Like the time when they built these stations, it was the yellow color that was actually the cheapest. And the reason all farms in certain parts of the country are red is because that was the paint that was cheapest at the time. And on larger farms, you always have a white main house. And that is because the people actually used more money on the paint on the main house on the farm. If you had a white color on your house, that meant that you actually had more money. Larry? No, I think I started like 9:30 as intended. Lars, I am actually scared of height myself. I cannot even climb halfway up a ladder before I freeze. But jumping out of an airplane? No problem. Waffle, I knew it. I knew it. And Fanman, the reason I actually know this is because it was just this weird day where I was sitting driving and it suddenly struck me, why are all farmhouses red? Why red? Why not green? Why not yellow? Why not black? So I actually started reading up on it, and yeah, The answer was that it was actually the cheapest paint. Patrick Manny, we don't have bullet trains in Norway. Those are just in Japan. Uranium, the Gardermoen line has 210 kilometers per hour, and the rest has been certified for 200 kilometers per hour, because that's where the FLIRT service. But those other lines are actually dimensioned for 250 kilometers per hour. So the day we have rolling stock here that can go at 250 and that will service that line, they will actually probably bump up the speed limit to 250. Esper, I have actually done some traveling throughout my life because my mother was actually shipping as an engineer on a boat. And adult life, I have some to do, and places that has fascinated me the most is probably and South Korea. Those are actually the countries that has fascinated me most. And I have been to the United States a lot, and that is actually the place where I kind of, what shall I say, I kind of feels like home. Those people there is actually great. And yeah, so that tends to be the place where I always go back to in the United States. Yes, we are actually getting closer to the end right now. So right now we are actually arriving Gullskogen station. From here we will divert off from the main line and into Sundland workshop. Naomi, the speed limit here was 130 kilometers per hour. Frank? Yeah, I will actually I was actually staying at a hotel before the return. The red building you saw to your right was actually the control building, so that's where the traffic controller is sitting and who is giving you the train path all over the workshop area. Frank, no, that would actually be impossible due to limitations of hours at work at the time. So we are restricted to a maximum of 5.5 hours before we need at least a 40-minute break on the engine. And after that, we can drive for 4.5 more because the maximum length of a day isn't supposed to be more than 10 hours. Unless you put in a much longer break, then they can actually stretch it to 16 hours. But still, they will be limited to the maximum 5.5 and 5.5 hours of driving. Ever wondered how it looks like on the roof of a Class 69? So if you just hold on, you will definitely see the top of Class 69 where the pantograph is. And that is right here. This is how the pantograph looks. And the green and silver train is a Class 72 used in the local service. No username? No, the Class 69 still service in the local service in Oslo, so they're still in use. Okay, so that concludes today's stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you back here next week. So, thank you so much for joining.